Good morning everyone, and welcome back to Craft Eccentricity. I hope you all had a fabulous weekend, and I'm up today with an MX Arts project. And so many people, I think, enjoyed the Easter card that I did on Friday. I thought we'd do a card today. So I've decided to use the MX Art sweet little bunny here in her little sort of like ballet dress. She's got ballet shoes and also the banner set. Now, MX Art is also the Black Cat store, so I usually hover between the two trying to find them, but these will be linked below. Right, so we're going to use those two and kind of create a spring scene, and to do that I'm going to use from Snap Click Supply. Don't forget Dollar Wednesday, because if I forget it I just stick it on a piece of paper and put it down in front of the computer, and I know that I can go hunting on Wednesdays. Right, so this is the basic grey True Love pack from Snap Click Supply, and I've printed these out. So that is a kind of like vintage type doily. You can fussy cut those hearts, which I think I may actually do. I think I may fussy cut one of those hearts out. I just think it's really lovely. I mean, if you've got a scan and cut, you can scan and cut the centre section out if you want to, and then you could fold it into four. Look a bit like one of those, what were those things we used to make when we were kids? We used to fold them up, you know, and twizzle them around. So somebody tell me what I'm talking about in the comments below. Right, and in the same set is this gorgeous ledger paper. I'm putting it sideways on because I want you to have a close-up of what I'm doing, and it doesn't all fit in, but you can see that is ledger paper, and you can size this to whatever size you want. And it's got the numbers there down in the border, so you could make that much larger or crop it and make it larger. I'm using the sort of like pink dots from that set. I'm using the Distress Pale Blue in that set, and also I'm using the pale blue sort of like pattern. It's almost a little bit Art Nouveau. There you go, if you look at that really close up. And putting it down is kind of like truer. It's more of a bluey green, if you know what I mean, a bit duck egg. So those are the colours that I'm using. And because I like the ledger paper, that is going to be the top of my card. And using my own software, I have printed that down at the bottom. Spring has sprung, and then I've used one of my, what do you call them? Oh, dingbats. Yes, dingbats, to add to the ink splashes around the lettering, because I wanted it to look, you know, cute but a little bit vintage. So this is going to be the top of my cards when I cut it out. Right, so I've got all my pieces. I'm going to cut my card bases and tops, and these I'm going to cut in whichever pattern papers I choose, but this is going to be cut all in white, except for the skirt and the bow, and then we'll come back and colour those elements. So I'll just run off and do some die cutting, and I'll be right back. Right, so I ran off and did some die cutting, and I'm just checking my volume here. It's okay, I thought I'd put the volume on pause. Oh my goodness me. Right, so die cutting, and I cut the banner pieces, and these are the colours that I chose for that. So I went with the pretty pink pattern and the pretty blue pattern. And if I can just keep one in my hands for a minute, I'm using my AliExpress silver twine, which I keep in one of these Dollar Tree ornament jars. They usually have the ornament hanger, but they stand flat on my shelf like that, and I can just pull whatever I want out. And this is a great thickness for getting into little holes like this, and I'll demonstrate. She said, yeah, almost got that through, but you don't necessarily have to use a needle. I mean, it's not totally fine twine, but do you know what I mean? It will fit through. So I'm introducing a little bit of silver there, and I will thread my banners up. Right, so that's what I'm using, my AliExpress silver twine, to do those. And I've cut my rabbit all in white cardstock, and this is done in the heavyweight cardstock from Amazon that I shared with you the other day. So when you cut in a heavyweight cardstock, your pieces are highly likely to stay inside. That can be a really good thing if you're wanting to colour yourself with markers. Now the bow and the skirt section I've cut in the pink pattern paper, and these are pieces, you can see the embossed sections there, they will go into those areas and over here, and you'll see here that she's got a little white fluffy tail that will stick out. And I do want to do a little bit of shading, so I'm going to be using my markers, and those elements there, I'm going to be using my Touch New Cool Grey 1 to cast some shadows around the ears and the hair, maybe under the tail and the backs of the legs. These are the legs, and they've got their little ballet shoes. Now on the website I think this flower is in yellow, but I quite like the idea of doing it in red to tie into some of the other colour elements that are going to be on the card. So which one is that? That one is 10 dark red in the Touch New. This one that I'm using for the centre of the flower is black, and that's a 120. And this little tiny piece here by my finger, that is the centre of the flower. That is one of the other leaves that goes to the, not leaves, petals that will go to the outside to give that flower a little bit more dimension. And the flower is in her hand. And then to do the ears, I've got a pale cherry pink, which is a 135, and that is also an AliExpress Touch New marker. Now for my card base, I've got the pale blue. I don't know if that's showing up correctly. It's all right, the sun is starting to get a bit brighter now. So I've got a pale blue background. I've got the heavyweight Amazon cardstock to go there as another base, and of course I will try and get them straight. And then I've got the ledger paper that I printed on, Spring Has Sprung, at the bottom with my ink splashes, and that's going to go onto there. And then I also, from that sheet that I showed you with the 4 hearts, fussy cut those out. I can see I've got a couple of little pieces here that I missed, but I'm not going to worry about that. So anyway, I fussy cut around the scallops, and I just think that's so pretty. So that is going to be the layout onto which my ballet bunny will go, and then we're going to have, you know, the swiggy swaggy banners going on too. Right, so I'm just going to move that out of the way for a minute. I'm going to take this and this away, and I'm going to concentrate on my rabbit while it's still stuck in there, because that can make life a lot easier. So if I put down my little tatty craft mat there, because I am using alcohol inks and I don't want it to bleed through onto my piece of background paper. And for her cheeks, I'm also going to be using the Jane Davenport birthday suit. If you don't have this, when Spellbinders have got a sale on, it's usually about $5, and it really, really will last you for life. You need such a small amount. But for blending critter faces and, you know, little character faces, it's just absolutely awesome. And I'm using one of these, which is... I don't know. What is it? It's a powder brush that people use for their eyes, isn't it? For putting eyeshadow on. So anything that you've got like that, as long as it's firm and not all squishy, is going to work. So we're going to use some of that on the cheeks. Right. So first of all, I'm going to colour my flower and that tiny bit so that I can see it, because I don't want to lose that. So I'm just going to hold my cardstock down. I'm going to use my marker, and I'm just going to totally drench that area so that I know that's the centre of my flower. And then I'm going to go in with the red, and I'm going to colour this. I'm going over it, you know, quite a few times, because I want it to seep down the sides there. I don't want any white edges. Now that is the flower stem, and I forgot to pick up a green, but I will do that in a minute. Now these are the ear sections which go into here, and I want those to be pink. So you can see just how quick and simple this really is. So I'm just going over that a couple of times to get a little bit of depth into it. There we go. That's done in cherry pink. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking about her ballet shoes, and I think I might have those in red. Why not? You know, let's think about Judy Garland, Dorothy. She can have some ruby slippers. Right, so this is one of the little crisscross pieces, you know, the ribbons that will go up her leg. And there's the other one. And then here's her little shoes. So as I say, just take your pen over your cardstock a couple of times, concentrate on those edges, and it should be all right for you. Now, as you can see, I've got extra pieces of the dress and the bow because I also cut it out in the pattern cardstock, and that is fine. I'm actually going to glue my patterned ones onto the white, which will give them an extra little bit of lift and dimension, which is something that they would have because the dress and the bow is going to stand out more than the rest of her. So anyway, let's get my Dollar Tree glue and let's see what we've got. This is what I use. It's very tatty, very old. I've had these bottles for about 3 years now, and the lid has got a slight little crack in it. I don't know if you can see that. That's how long I've had them, but they do last really well. So I'm just going to test it, make sure it's flowing. There it is on my craft mat down there. And the first thing that I want to do is pop her out and pop my other pieces out, and we're going to glue it. Now, paper piecing is really easy, whether you're using different colours of cardstock or whether you've coloured it yourself. It basically amounts to the same thing. Now, I'm just going to pause while I get my poke tool. Okay, so I've got that, and I'm just going to poke these pieces out, because once you've coloured them, it's just a better way to do it, you know, rather than all those little pieces flying around everywhere on you. So it just gives you better control of the situation. And that's her other slipper piece. Let's get that out there. And then we've got the tiny little flower centre. And then there's the flower petals. So I'm likely to do that one first, actually. And I'm just looking around now for my pickup tool, just to show you my level of organisation. She's got one little arm. I'm going to take that out and put that with the body sections. And here are her little feet. I'll just get rid of that blob of glue off there. And then, of course, I've got the flower stem, and I forgot to get my green pen. So I'm going to colour that in green and grab my pickup tool. Right, so I grabbed a number 47, which is a grass green. So that's what I've just used to colour in that tiny little flower stem. And my pickup tool, I've shown these many times. They're super cheap. That's just an eraser that I got from Dollar Tree, and I just stuck it on the end. And what I like to do is you usually get a pack of 2 for about, I think when I got them, they were 70 cents for 2. And I just snap them in half and use them that way, because if you've got a big long, you know, piece of wax, it's likely to snap in half anyway, so you may as well just do it yourself and then just add whatever little bits that are useful to you on the ends. Like I use that for rubbing off little excess pieces of dry glue that may have squeezed out, so it's really useful to do it like that. So anyway, let's do the flower first before I lose that, you know, tiny little black piece there, because that's the way my mind works. And I'm trying to get into here. You've always got to remember that you can see and I can't. So, not that I can hear you yelling at home. You've got it upside down, but you know what I mean. Right, so I'll put the little black piece down there, and I'm also going to put this piece in so that if I've got it in the wrong place, that will actually sort of like shove it up and into position. So just a little bit there. I'm just going to grab that, and hopefully I've got that in the right position. I'm going to touch that with my fingers and see what happens. There. So that is the tiny little flower, and I'm going to pick that up and show you without moving everything. There. I kind of like the idea of it being a poppy. If that's blurred, I'm sorry. It's just that we've got some lovely sunshine and I don't really want to complain about that. So that's my little flower. That is the little stem. So I am going to, I think I'm going to glue that underneath. So just a tiny, tiny dot of glue on the top of there. Really small amount. And I do love my Dollar Tree Jot Glue. It's really effective. And so those two are now bonded together. So I've got my tiny little flower. And now I'm going to do the ears. And then I'm going to run away and put my card base together because, you know, I think everybody knows how to do that. And we'll come back and shade the bunny and pop the bunny on. Right, so there goes the earpiece. And you can see where it's embossed so that you can quite literally, you know, slide into position if you need to. That's me putting my fingers in the glue. I'm just going to shift that out there. So right, sometimes if I haven't got my glasses on and I do something, it's a huge mistake. Right. So that one is now going to go onto there and move that back into the embossed line, which is why they're so easy to do. You can see all the embossed sections and where every piece needs to be. So I am going to pause for a bit and I'm just going to do my card base and I'll come straight back. Okay, so I've glued the little ballet shoes onto the little legs. We've got the flower done, and I've also glued the pattern paper onto one of the white bases that I did, so that now that's going to sort of like stick out further than the rest of it. It's going to have more dimension, and they've got to be glued up there and here. We've got the little arm which will go on, and the flower and stem will go between the two hands because she's holding it. And I've done the base. Right, so I've gone with the pale blue, then I've gone with the white, then I've gone with the ledger, then I've got my fussy cut heart and my little bit of stamping down there. I haven't threaded up my banner yet, and I will pause to go and thread that up. And I think I will probably use a needle. Use a wool needle to do it if it makes life easier for you. So shading. Now clearly, you know, she's a white rabbit, and I'm looking for my cool grey one now. Right, so I've got my cool grey one, and think about how she is and what she's doing, and she's looking at a flower, so I'm saying the light is coming from here. So I'm just going to drop some shade down on her tail and come up the back there. You don't have to do this. I like to do it. I just think, you know, it adds a little bit of extra. And then under the hand here, I'm just going to taper it off, give her a little bit of grey there, and then I'm going to, so I can't see, and I don't really want to stand up because then I'll be shouting into the microphone. I'm just going off the edge there where I think there's going to be a shadow, and also into the little tufty bits here, going up to the back of the head, and then the ear. I'm trying to think the best way to get the shading for the ear. So you kind of like, you've got to suggest the shape of the head. So I'm kind of like okay with that. This bit here is going to be in a lot deeper shadow because you've got the other ear that's going to sort of like shade it. So if we can come down here, if I go quiet, it's because, you know, I'm enjoying myself. So I've got some shadow into her ears, and I'm trying to think if I need anywhere else. I mean, I guess the other arm being in front would cast a little bit here, so I'll do that. And I think that's probably it. And I might come off here as well. I don't like to get too carried away in case, you know, I sort of overdo it. But, you know, for me personally, I'm quite happy with that. I think obviously because of the position where I'm going to have my light, she's going to be in shadow on her legs. So I'm going to do that. I'm okay with that. Right, so that was the cool grey one that I've just finished, and now I'm just going to, before I run off and thread my banner, stick those bits down so that I can show you. Now you don't have to put your glue everywhere. You can see I've just got 2 dots there, and then obviously right at the ends, because you don't want a headband to be, you know, sort of sticking up all over the place. Just do the edges. And a bottle of Jock glue will quite literally last me for 2 years. Now, this is a large piece, so I don't really have to use my pickup tool for this one. But what I do need to do is get it in the correct position. And I hope that's it. I am going to pick it up just for a second so that I can see that, see, I'm outside of my emboss line there, so I'm just going to pick it up and press it firmly to make sure that it's glued down. But I hope my camera's not blurred because I just want to show you what using that extra piece of cardstock achieves. See if I can get a clear picture. Ooh, oh, there you go. See, it just stands out really nicely from the flat die cut, and it just gives a better impression. Right, so her little dress will go here, and once again it's easy to position the dress because it's the same shape as everything that you've got going on down here. And I know that I can't touch the bunny tail, so I'm just going to have my glue there. Once again, it's a big piece so that you can, you know, pick it up and put it down, and all you've got to do is marry up all your wavy edges with your wavy edges below. So I'm going to do that, and then I may pick it up in a minute just to make sure that I got it right. Okay, so you can see that I'm down a little bit there, so that needs to go up. Then I'll give it a squeeze. Wait until it's dry. But now you can see, go close up there as well. See how the dress just comes forward and the little headband comes forward, and it will cast its own natural shadow onto the face, which is really, really nice. And then of course the little arm needs to go on there with the flower, but I need to put the flower on first because she's holding that between her 2 hands. So I will use, I think, my pickup tool for this, and I'm just going to put a blob of glue, pop that down on there, because, you know, she's smelling her little flower. Isn't that cute? I just think that's so sweet. And then the position of her arm. Now, I think, remembering from the website, her arm is coming down quite literally from what looks like underneath her head. But marrying the hands up is the most important because she's got them, you know, both clasped together. So I'm not going to put any glue there at the moment. I'm just going to concentrate on her holding that flower and putting a reasonable amount of glue there so that, whoops, don't forget to pop your lid on in between glues because otherwise it can dry on you. And I'm going to use my hands to do this, and I just really hope that I've got this right. Now I need to squidgy that up. So she's holding her little flower, but the reason I haven't glued that in yet is because I think I can just pick that up in a minute and tuck it underneath her head. So I'm just holding it and hoping it's glued. I think that's it. So if we look at that, you can see her shoulder is sticking out, and I don't really want that. So holding onto her hands, I am going to manipulate that around the head, and that'll do it for me. There. I am quite happy with that. I think she's just really sweet. And now her legs, because she's a little ballet dancer, they're going to be here, and this one comes forward, so it's a lot longer. And I usually do this. I kind of like get the legs where I feel I want them and where they should be, and maybe a little bit closer together. So I just kind of like inch them along my mat until I'm happy. Yeah, I think about there looks right. And then what I'll do is I'll push my body completely out of the way, and then I get my glue and I just drop a little bit to the tops of each of the legs. As you can see there's just a little drop of glue there. And then rather than manipulate a small item, I will quite literally pick up the whole body and think about where exactly I want the body on those legs. And I think that for me that's going to be it. And then I just press. Just hold it there for a few seconds and her little legs will become attached. And so there we have our little rabbit. So I am going to let those dry up there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run away and just thread up my banner with my twine, and I'll come back. Okay, so I put the card together, and I was just applying a little bit of blush to her cheek here, and that's the way you do it. You just pick a little bit up and you use your eyeshadow brush, and that's what we've got. Tiny little bit of blush there, just making her look really sweet. You've got the ears on, you've got the drop shadow. I've chosen the red because I love the red in the paper. Her little ruby slippers, and the card with the banner is now done. And of course there's a little bit of silver up there too. We've got that heart that was fussy cut. You've got the Spring has Sprung printed on top of the ledger paper. There are my foam pads, and I'm just peeling the backs off those, and that will complete the card. So let's get this where I want to put it, which is pretty much centre, and I kind of like want her feet to be on the Spring is Sprung. And there she is. Let's do a close-up. There we go. And she looks really happy, doesn't she? She looks over the moon. I've never got any bits of fluff on my card. I usually have. But that's what I've got for you today. I really hope that you enjoyed that. And I do thank you so much for watching. I know it's a half-hour long video, but, you know, I really do appreciate it. So, that's it. And as usual, all links below. I don't know what I'm going to be up with tomorrow, but you have an awesome day. Bye.